Hello, I'm Scott Mathias, and this is Beyond the Noise. I'm talking with Max Igan, who's an Australian-based social commentator, and we're talking about 5G and the awareness which is emerging in Australia around this whole issue of 5G rollout, its health impacts, etc., etc. Max, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you giving us some precious time.
My pleasure, brother. Happy to come and have a chat. Thanks for asking me on.
What I'm seeing is I'm seeing a tremendous amount of social and community activity begin to emerge in Australia around the unanswered questions associated with the health impacts of 5G. Where do you sit with this right now?
Look, there's a lot of activism happening, and it's really, really good. And it's something that really needs to be explored. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and a lot of hyped up theories and all sorts of stuff going on with 5G as well, with the health impacts. The problem is that nobody knows. There's been no studies. So this is the thing. We can look at the damage that we get from electromagnetic radiation. We can see that it's a very real thing. There are people who display symptoms of electromagnetic hypersensitivity and all sorts of stuff. We can look at nature. We can see the damage that it does to trees and wildlife and stuff like that. I mean, I think you've done studies yourself on trees where it's been shown that the trees closest to the Wi-Fi emitters are actually suffering health defects. So, yeah, there's all sorts of indications that this is very, very damaging for health. And if you look at the military applications of it and you look at the way it's used for crowd control, well, they know that there are certain aspects that they can use for damaging health. And the problem is that we don't know. There hasn't been enough studies done. That's the whole issue. Even when you look at Tom Wheeler and his speech of the FCC in the United States saying, we won't wait for the standards. That's very, very telling that they said that. But an interesting thing with it as well is that even looking at those standards, if you look at, for example, the standards that the workers have when they're working on the poles, and you look at the safe level that they're given, what you find is that the safe level that they've given for overall environment exposure is around about 100 times higher than that. So that sort of sets alarm bells off as well. There's a Australian barrister who's been doing some great work with this called Ray Broomhall, who is absolutely snowed under at the moment. The poor man, he's put his name out there and said, "I'll help." And suddenly he's getting thousands of emails from all around Australia and internationally as well. Everybody wants to know how to deal with this. So there is a huge, huge pushback from the community. Actually, right now, there's a whole group of people on the Gold Coast who've gone to a council meeting that I was going to go to as well, because the decision for 5G deployment is being decided in council today on the Gold Coast. So there's a lot of people going to the council chambers to, voice their opinions and hear what the council has to say and just make their presence known. So yeah, there's a huge pushback, and it's good to see. It's something that's uniting people, as it should. It's a very, very serious issue.
Now, the local authorities will get paid to actually position towers within the municipality, is that correct? Or attach these mini broadcast units at 300-meter gaps in residential streets and things like that. So there's money involved here, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. There's people who have the emitters put on their property and stuff like that. And of course, there's kickbacks for local councils who want to put this stuff out there because they'll get kickbacks for deploying it in their communities. And, it's not just about, the health aspects and everything with this as well. It's also the smart cities, the smart grid that they want to roll online as well. And that is very, very concerning. If you look at the smart system,
this is the Internet of Things that they talk about. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Internet of Things and the smart system that they have in place in China, that they want to put in place in Darwin. This is a mass surveillance system that will track every single aspect of human activity, every single thing everybody does all the time. That's what the whole smart grid's about. It's not about convenience. It's about mass surveillance of everybody. It's basically putting a prison system in place in our societies where every single thing you do, even in your own home, will be tracked. Every single purchase you make will be tracked, and you'll be awarded social credit points for good behavior or bad behavior. this good or bad behavior, of course, being determined by government guidelines. There'll be people being penalized for posts they put on Facebook that have criticized the government. They'll find that they're down on social credit points and suddenly can't buy a train ticket. This sort of stuff. This is what they've done in China. There's something like 23 million people on China's credit blacklist at the moment. That's almost the population of Australia is on their blacklist.
Wow.
It's incredible. And these people will do things like in China, if you jaywalk, you go across a don't walk sign, even if there's no traffic there, you go across a don't walk sign, walk across there against the sign, it's a fine. You just broke the law, you get fined, and the money is deducted from your account within 20 seconds of you walking across the crossing. And not only that, but the surveillance cameras have taken a picture of your face and displayed it on a local bus shelter to shame you in front of the local people. So this man just broke the law. This is what they're doing, and you find that you're down on social credit points. When you get down a certain amount of points, then you're limited from certain services, such as buying aircraft tickets, buying plane tickets, buying train tickets, sometimes even from renting houses and things like that. So this is the way it's gone in China, and the only way to get your credit points back is to go and do volunteer work or community service work or make large donations to select government-approved companies. So it's essentially you're bribing your way back to get your points back. It's a very, very dysfunctional system, really. I mean, very functional if from a government's point of view, but very, very dysfunctional from the people's point of view. And this is what they are actually putting in place
Right.
in
And
Australia.
they need a network to do this, though, don't they? They need a 5G pumping out what? Massive amount of megahertz in order for
They need the
this thing to
bandwidth.
work.
Yeah, they need the bandwidth. You can't have millions of people making transactions all the time. So with the Internet of Things, the way it will work is you'll walk into a supermarket, and I mean they brought in all the self checkouts now in supermarkets and stuff now. So they're kind of moving you towards this. There's supermarkets in England now where you can walk in and every item, it's kind of looking at you. The shelves are looking at you. They're looking at your facial profile. They're judging what your facial expressions are. They'll see how long you'll linger on a certain item, whether you're likely to buy it, all this sort of stuff. So the whole supermarket is watching you and tracking you. In China, you've got not in the outskirts, but in the main cities like in Xingshan, I think the name of the town is, and major towns in China, Beijing. There's a QR code. You walk into a shop and there's a QR code that you scan on your phone, and then you go and you order what you want, and it's already automatically paid for. You don't have to do anything. And if you order before you go into the store, you'll get a little discount. So they're sort of leading you into this sort of thing. So with the Internet of Things, you'll walk into a shop like Target. You'll scan a QR code as soon as you walk into the store. Every single thing every item in the store will have a microchip on it. You'll pick up what you want, you'll put it in your bag, and then you'll walk out. The shop will detect you walking out with these microchips. It will automatically be deducted from your account. That's the way it goes. But then everything has a microchip. Everything is streaming. Everything's sending a signal. So everywhere around your house, every item that you buy is streaming Wi-Fi. It's streaming Wi-Fi signal. So you are in this, even if you don't have a modem or you're not online, you buy something from the supermarket, you buy a jug or a bottle of Coke, anything, and it's got a chip in it that's streaming to the nearest 5G cell tower. So you're in that field anyway. This is the way they're going. So, and if everything's streaming, how hard would it be to put a micro camera or a microphone in everything as well? Everything can be listening, everything can be watching. So you get to the point where there's no privacy, even in the comfort of your own home. People in Dubai, with this system is in place as well, say the surveillance system they have in Dubai, it's like living your life with a stranger standing in your bedroom. That's what it's like. And that's the world that we're heading into. And that's what is underlying all this. So you've got to wonder how much of the focus people are putting on the health aspects, which are, a concern, also a distraction away from what is the bigger picture, which is the Internet of Things, the mass surveillance smart system, which is not smart for us at all. It's just a mass surveillance system the government's putting in place. How much of it is a distraction away from that? You have to ask that question.
Now, of course, with smartphones, they are configured to complement the 5G system. And I see that, Samsung are all putting out a 5G phone and things like that. So ultimately, all the devices would actually come up to 5G type specifications. Let's talk about what people can do, because what you have just painted there is an incredibly, actually, it's worse than a George Orwell 1984 scenario or Animal Farm. It's actually worse than, because you, as you said, you know, you could have some sort of detection method on an article of clothing you've purchased from somewhere that's in your bedroom at night, and your privacy is absolutely and categorically completely impacted because you've got this insidious thing happening. We're talking about community action at this particular point on health concerns. What the hell else has humanity got here? Where are the libertarians here? Where are the organizations that were quite predominant during the, say, 70s and 80s, even in Queensland, when Joh Bjelke-Petersen was alluding to this type of insidious involvement in our lives? And you remember him, of course. So where are the bigger groups that can actually speak on behalf of humans here?
Well, it's difficult to find them. You know, there are groups forming. There's a group in Brisbane called 5G Global that's really trying to make a difference. You know, a guy called Paul Seals is running that, and he's really working hard to do it. Of course, he's getting criticism from other people. What makes you the leader and all this sort of, you know, this is the way divide and conquer is the motto, you know. But it's very difficult to arrange these things now because of the internet. You know, we think we've got more connectivity with the internet, but not when Google filters algorithms. And people tend to start, you know, they want an action group, so they'll start a Facebook group, and then they'll go, wow, look at us, we've got 2,000 followers. But they're not doing anything in the real world. They're sitting there, it's collectivism, they're online doing this sort of stuff, you know. They're not getting out there in the real world, and we don't have a media anymore the way we did then. You know, back then we had some semblance of media. You know, if there was a problem in government, if there was something going on in the community, the media would generally report it, or you could put it in a, you know, write a letter to the editor, or you could do an article yourself. You could get the word out in that way. But with the internet, it's all very much filtered and it's all very much controlled, and things are pushed to the background so people don't see them. And people are kept so busy and caught up in their own lives is the problem. You know, so, you know, we've got to do it suburb by suburb, I think. You know, get to know your neighbours, get your neighbours involved, get them to realise what we're facing, and get them to not submit to these towers being put in around the place and being put outside their houses, these small cell towers, all this sort of stuff. You know, the tactic that Ray Broomhall is employing there, how it's an assault against us, and using the legal means to go down that pathway and you know, take action for assault using the criminal code of the state. I mean, this is one way to do it. It's something that people can identify with. And I highly recommend that people try to do that. But it's getting the word out to people is the hardest part. You know, we think the internet has given us all this freedom and all this connectivity, but it hasn't. And, you know, and you'll find that people are sort of corralled over into their own groups. So even when we do radio shows like this and we do broadcasts like this, we're speaking to an echo chamber. It's very difficult to get the word out to new people. I mean, you could record this show, post it on Facebook, and it'll only go to your friends or some of your friends. And even if people search for it, they won't find it. The algorithm won't let them. See, that's how people don't understand how it all works with algorithms and things, you know. And this is what makes the Internet of Things so dangerous as well. Like what you were outlining before, when there's an article of your clothing that has something like this in it, or your clock radio has a chip or something like that. And it isn't that someone's there monitoring what you say because they really want to hear what Scott's saying in his bedroom. It's when you're lying in bed and you're having a conversation with your wife and you say certain key words, and the algorithm hears those key words, and then it starts monitoring you. And then you become a person of interest. And so it goes back and looks at your Facebook logs, and it goes, oh, this guy's been saying things we don't like. Yeah, and all the stuff that we've done online for the last 10 years, it's all recorded. Yeah, it's all been there. It's all permanent record. Every post you made on MySpace, even the edits that you made to the post, it's all still there. They can go back and look at every edit you made. It's all there. Everything's there. The whole internet, the whole World Wide Web has been a phishing exercise to get tabs of everybody, who's thinking this, who's thinking that. And the 5G system is just locking all that in down. So, you know, our only real hope at the moment is public awareness. We've got to get the word out to people in a way they can understand, and help them see that what the government is doing is not acting on our behalf. This is not for our benefit, if it was really about fast communication, we can do that with optic fiber. We can do it with all sorts of stuff. We don't need radiation. We don't need all this stuff. And even that article I think you sent me earlier, the damage that it's doing to children. This is something that I've been pointing out to people for a long time on the show, is giving all of these smart devices to children is causing mental problems in children. It's destroying their cognitive function. And it's basically child abuse, you know. Pull your kids out of schools that are giving these smart devices to kids in primary school and stuff. Get back to pen and papers. You know, we don't need kids having this addiction to this technology, which is all designed to do that through dopamine releases and the way it works. I mean, it's a whole rabbit hole to go down, but you know, we're being led into an incredible dystopia. So, you know, people, you'll find that there are action groups in your community. If you search, I mean, maybe if you search Facebook or you search local notice boards in your community, I do recommend getting in touch with the 5G Global group on Facebook. Paul Seals is doing some great work. He really is pushing this hard. And if there's a lot of people been connected to him, he's been getting a lot of people in. So, I mean, he's located in Brisbane, but he may know someone in your area or someone he could point you towards or something like that. So,
Okay, what
yeah,
about
just get involved.
yeah, what about the role of our elected members of parliament? Or is that a bit of a joke in the context
Yeah.
of putting up, petitions and things like that in order to generate some awareness at a community level around the dangers of health? So it's probably the only point of entry to slow this down. Is that a possibility, or is it pie in the sky at this particular point? Are they all bought off by conscience or morality,
Well,
or what?
the problem is, like I said, local councils are getting kickbacks. And local councils, I mean, they've way outstepped the mark. They really have. This is another avenue that we're looking into, because, I mean, local councils don't have the authority that they claim they have. Local councils are supposed to be elected to liaise with government on our behalf. You know, state government is actually as local as it gets. The local council on the Gold Coast or in Noosa or wherever you happen to be is not there to dictate what they do. They're not your government. You know, the government is the state government. The council's supposed to liaise with them. The Australia Act in 1986, you know, when we had a referendum in 1986 to decide whether we would give local councils governmental authority, and we all voted no. 53.15% of the population voted no, we would not grant this. And then Bob Hawke went and wrote up the Australia Act and kind of gave it to them anyway. And basically every law that they've enacted since 1986 is invalid if you really want to look at it in the context of the Australia Act. So that's another avenue you could go down. But of course, that requires taking it to the Supreme Court. You need money and all sorts. They've got it all tied up. You know, you can petition them, but a petition is basically saying, you know, we would like you to please not do this. Will you please be a nicer slave master to us? We'd like softer shackles, please. You know, it doesn't really work. So, you know, what you need really is a people's mandate saying, we the people hereby mandate that you carry out this action. You have 30 days to comply, or we'll rally the people to express a loss of confidence in your government's ability to govern and take the necessary steps to have you dismissed and replaced with people who will act on the will of the people. You know, something like that. That's what we need.
This is sort of revolutionary talk, and the establishment would see this as a form of anarchy, but I just see it as...
It's not when you think about it. We, the people, mandate that you, our elected employees, I mean, the local council is elected to liaise on our behalf. They're there to provide for us what we as a community want. We employ these people so they can petition state government or lobby state government and say, okay, well, our community would like this. And they're supposed to do that for us. But they flip the tables. Now they come along and say, well, you've all got to do things the way we tell you. That's not what council's for. So what we could do as a people, rather than petition, like I'm saying, it's not revolutionary. It's not even anarchy. It's saying, no, we're going to respect the need for government to be here because this is the way the people think. Okay, I can go with that. Let's work in a language they can understand. Okay, so rather than petition, we're going to write out a mandate. We, the people, require that you perform this action because you are our council. You have 30 days to comply. Should you fail to comply to our mandate, this is an abuse of you'll be held in abuse of the office that you hold, and we will express a loss of confidence in your council's ability to govern, and we'll take the necessary steps to have you dismissed and replaced. And that is using their language. You know, you use words such as dismissal and loss of confidence, abuse of office. These are legal terms, and these are terms that apply to governments. So you take that sort of an approach to them, and you kind of back them into a corner. So listen, this is what we want. We're not asking. We're telling you this is what we want. You know, no means no. It's as simple as that. We don't want these 5G towers. We don't care what you say, because that's not what we employ you to do. So we're mandating that you take them down. And if you don't comply, then we'll rally the people and we'll express a loss of confidence in you and we'll kick you out. And we'll put some people in there who will do our will for us and carry out our will for us, because that is the role of council. You know, we've just forgotten that. People, you know, you get up into grow a backbone in your local community, in your local council. People need to get up and say that. And I actually said that to the local councilwoman here, and she nearly broke down in tears. She didn't know what to say, because no one had ever said this before. And the whole room got up and cheered when I did it. So,
Max, for the person at home hearing this, who seemingly feels helpless, we've just talked about the opportunities at a community level, and 5G Global and other community 5G groups. I just see another one's opened up on the Sunshine Coast here. Please, can I just have 1 minute from you, a message to humanity here? And I do it with all my interviews, a nice rounded 1 minute that you wish to actually impart something here that will allow something to actually bloom out of not just this conversation, but bloom out of a conscience or the hearts of the people who are listening to this interview.
well, that's a big question, isn't it? You know, what we're really facing here is a loss of self in everything that we are dealing with here. It's a loss of what it means to be human, and people don't feel that they have the confidence to even be themselves anymore is the problem. You know, people are too willing to just bend over on command and do what they're told, because they don't feel that they have any self-worth, and they don't feel they can depend upon the people around them, because they've been taught to distrust the people around them, you know, and all of this is due to a loss of self, the whole thing. You know, this whole system is designed to keep us in competition with each other, whereby we measure each other by the size of our front doors. You know, we don't ever see the realness in ourselves, and we don't really have the confidence in ourselves. And these type of situations are happening, I think, as a challenge to us. You know, and like everything that I expressed before, just standing up in that wholesome, righteous anger and expressing that without violence. I mean, you can be angry, and if you're not angry about what's going on, well, I don't know, you must have a heart of stone or something, or perhaps you're just hiding it. But you know, you can express wholesome, righteous anger and do it for the good of all, and you will make a difference. But we're at a turning point here, and we have the choice to stand up for ourselves or to be led into this dystopia. And we can't wait for leaders to come along. You know, here comes the knight in the shining armor. You know, Scott's going to come along, or Max is going to come along. We're going to do what he says, and he's going to lead us to safety. All we have to do is stand up for ourselves and stand up for what we are, and express that. And express that to the people around you. Get to know your neighbors. Put common unity back into the community. That's what it's supposed to mean. You know, support each other, and we can steer ourselves out of this mess. You know, it's a complete dystopia, and we don't really have to do any of this stuff. And all we really have to do to get through it is to, like I said, rediscover ourselves. Because
Max,
the whole system is.
That's brilliant. I mean, I love the choice of words: wholesome, righteous anger, and we have a right to be righteously angry at this particular point. Now, people who are wanting more information about you and your work, because there will be people hearing this who have not heard of you before, where can they actually find out more about what you're involved in?
You can go to my website, thecrowhouse.com. It's completely free. You just go there, click the face, enter the website. It's an old HTML website. It's not WordPress. I never went there, not going there. Sorry, folks, that's the way it is. It's all free. There's no subscriber section. I've made 6 films. I've got 10, 11 years of radio archives on the website, hundreds and hundreds of pages and links to all sorts of sites, a lot of information on the website. As I said, it's all free. It's just a portal of information. Share it with people, get the word out, and you'll find everything about me there, all the links to all my work, everything I've done. It's all accessible through thecrowhouse.com.
Max, thanks so much indeed for your time. I really, really appreciate the work and the effort that you're putting into making a difference for humanity. And it's good to see that other people are also joining you now and helping to expand your community. Wish you all the very best for ongoing work and for the advocacy work you're doing around 5G and other social issues. And I just hope that people go to your website and just learn a little bit more. And thank you so much indeed for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Scott. Anytime, brother. It's been a good conversation.
All right. Thanks so much indeed. Cheers now. This is Beyond the Noise.